Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pickleball and Politics. Well, if you're like me, you were watching Vice President Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz give their long-anticipated first interview, not joint interview, singular interview, any interview with Dana Bash or any journalist actually on CNN recently. And it was one of the biggest mistakes I think the Harris campaign has made is that they've kept her away from the media at all, of reporters, not taking a little question here, taking a question there. There was so much anticipation for this interview. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a dud, a complete dud. Vice President Harris acted as if her and Joe Biden have never stepped into the Oval Office or even have been to the White House. I mean, it was quite bizarre to me. She kept on almost deferring to herself as the challenger and that Donald Trump was the incumbent. At least that was the feeling I got. When Bash asked her, he was beside her, Walz. It was a little Charlie McCarthy to me. If you don't know who Charlie McCarthy is, go look him up. You'll get it. He kind of looks like Charlie McCarthy, too, but that's a whole other topic. When asked about the economy, she kept on referring to the $35 insulin. Hey, I get it. My mom used to spend a fortune, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year on her insulin. So I get that. That is an accomplishment, okay, the $35 insulin. Well, that's it. That's all you got for me? When asked about immigration, Harris completely blamed Trump for the problems at the border right now. The border czar herself is blaming Donald Trump, because he's the incumbent and she's the challenger. It was crazy to me. When we get to Tim Walz and they asked him about his stolen valor. I'm calling it stolen valor. And his little white lies on the IVF. I don't really care about the IVF thing. You needed help getting pregnant. Hey, whatever. But don't say it was IVF if you didn't have IVF. About the stolen valor. About talking about weapons of war that he's carried in combat when he never got to combat. When asked those questions, he said that his students loved him. What do his students have to do with this? I want to know, what do his students have to do with this? And then I also loved when he said, well, I really think people know who I am. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a clue who you are. I had no idea who you were, except you let Minnesota burn down 4 years ago. I know you did that. Otherwise, don't really know much about you at all, Tim Walz. So to say people know who you are, not the country. Maybe Minnesota knows you. I don't. I had no clue who you were. Like I said, they have absolutely no plan for day one. Actually, they had no policy, no plan. It's as if she could just carry on. In other words, she's just going to let who's ever running the country now continue to run the country. That was the feeling I got. When she talked about how she wanted to change the attitude of America, that the attitude's gotten so bad in the last 10 years, somebody needs to remind Vice President Harris that it's the Democrats who've been in charge for the last 6 of 10 years, and it's the Democrats who've been in charge for the last 12 of 16 years. Yeah. I don't know. There was so much word salad here. It kind of like blew my mind. And then the most manufactured, phony story I'd ever heard was the phone rang on Sunday morning. And Mamala herself had her grandniece over and she was making some bacon. And they were going to sit down and do a puzzle when the phone rang and it was Joe. And all she really cared about was Joe. She was worried about Joe. No, I'm sure the fact that she was now going to be the candidate had nothing to do with her. It's as if she didn't know she was going to be the candidate before she got the call, because we all know what was going on behind the scenes before Joe made that call. But they were sitting down for a puzzle, some more bacon. Kamala Harris has to be one of the phoniest, most contrived, fakest politicians I have ever seen. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, watching this interview, she is insufferable. And we're the same age, just about. I'm thinking to myself, she's insufferable. I'm thinking to myself, this past week, Donald Trump has been raked over the coals for some pictures at Arlington National Cemetery that his photographer took as he was paying tribute and remembering those 13 Marines who were killed in Afghanistan 3 years ago. Joe Biden himself is completely AWOL, MIA. We haven't seen him for weeks now. We have Venezuelan gangs that have taken over Aurora, Colorado, with no end in sight. And I'm thinking to myself, why would anyone vote for 4 more years of this? It baffles my mind. All right, you know where to get me. You can get me on Instagram or on Getter at Pickleball and Politics. My suspension is almost up on X. You can reach me there at Pickle and Paul. That's P-O-L at the end. And you can leave me a message right here on my YouTube channel. You know, I write back. You write me. I write you back. All right, until next time, I'll see you again soon on Pickleball and Politics.